All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:30. We will call the May council meeting to order at this time. Welcome to those in attendance, those watching at home, and to the Common Council. At this time, we will have the clerk call the roll.
Bry,
Here.
Schley,
Here.
Kotterovic, here. Beeman,
Here.
Sakala,
Here.
Bolt,
Here.
Cummings,
Here.
Vanderkin,
Here.
Freckelberg,
Here.
Sikowitz,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. At this time, will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And if you could remain standing after the pledge for a prayer by our council president, Eric Sitkowitz. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, please protect the law enforcement officers that protect and serve us. Help them walk through their communities with honor so that they can keep the peace. Help them be humble and honest in the performance of their duties. Amen.
Amen. All right, we're gonna jump the agenda a little bit here, only because we have Girl Scout Troop 8209 here that has a special request on the agenda, and we would love for them to stay the whole meeting, but it's best if you probably don't. So we would like to take up this request from the Girl Scout Troop 8209.
Document 388, which is a request from Girl Scout Troop 8209 for a Little Beach Library at Red Arrow. Committee returns same, recommending approval.
Council, your pleasure on this report.
Move to approve the request, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Alderman Sakala.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When they came and presented to us at Public Infrastructure, I thought they did a fantastic job. They have a solid plan. Everything looks great, and they're really enthused about doing this. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Wholeheartedly agree. Thank you for coming forward and coming to a public meeting and requesting this. That's really cool to see that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Congratulations. You just passed your first bill. And I was kidding. You're more than welcome to stay. We have some pretty cool things if you do want to stay and watch, but getting a law passed is pretty fun. All right, we'll move to the presentations. We have quite a few presentations this evening, and we have badge pinning and oath of offices for several. I believe we're going to take these just in order. So we'll bring the three firefighters up. Seth Lohberger, Ben Molnar, and Tyler Tews. We would please bring the three up as well as their families. They can definitely come on up if you want to take some pictures, as well as any other firefighter paramedics who are in the room here today.
All right, well, whenever you're ready, I'll have you raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Seth Loberger,
I, Seth Loberger,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of firefighter paramedic
of firefighter paramedic
for the City of Manitowoc
for the City of Manitowoc
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If I could just collect your signature on this document, please. And then I'll do the rest. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready, please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Ben Molnar,
I, Ben Molnar,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of firefighter paramedic
of firefighter paramedic
for the City of Manitowoc
for the City of Manitowoc
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. I just need to get on this line right here. Okay. Thank you. All right. Again, whenever you're ready, please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Tyler Tews,
I, Tyler Tews,
solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of firefighter paramedic
of firefighter paramedic
for the City of Manitowoc
for the City of Manitowoc
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations and welcome officially to the City of Manitowoc. We'll let you file out here for a second if you'd like. We have two proclamations that we'll be reading in a second. All right, if I could have Bill Nichols from our Building Inspection Department come on up to receive the first proclamation. It's for Building Safety Month. I'll start reading it as he's running up here. It's a lengthy one. It reads, whereas the City of Manitowoc is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and economic value of the homes, buildings, and infrastructure that serve our citizens, both in everyday life and in times of disaster. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safety construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, and federal officials that are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas our nation benefits economically and technologically from using the international codes that are developed by a national voluntary consensus codes and standards developing organization, our government is able to avoid the high cost and complexity of developing and maintaining these codes, which are the most widely adopted building safety and fire prevention codes in the world. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, and floods. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us are safe, sustainable, energy efficient, and livable buildings that are essential to America's prosperity. And whereas Prevent, Prepare, Protect building codes save, the theme for Building Safety Month 2023 encourages all Americans to raise awareness about the importance of safe and resilient construction, fire prevention, disaster mitigation, energy conservation, water safety, training the next generation, and new technologies in the construction industry. And whereas each year in observance of Building Safety Month, people all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential service provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now therefore, I, Justin Nichols, Mayor of the City of Manitowoc, hereby proclaim the month of May 2023 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join with their communities in participation in Building Safety Month activities. I'll let Bill Nichols say a few words.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor to get this proclamation. We're just out there to do our best to make sure that everybody in the community remains safe. We have safe buildings. And, yeah, that's it. I didn't do a squeeze.
That's good. I like it. Short and sweet. Thank you, Bill, and everyone in the Building Inspection Department. Thank you. Our next proclamation actually is timely because today is the official day for Peace Officers Memorial Day and National Police Week. I'd invite Police Chief Nick Reimer up to accept this proclamation. It reads, whereas Congress and the President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of Manitowoc play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Manitowoc. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the people of the law enforcement agency of Manitowoc unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now therefore, I, Justin Nichols, Mayor of the City of Manitowoc, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through 21st, 2023 as National Police Week, and encourage the community to observe this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Manitowoc to observe today, May 15th, 2023, as Peace Officers Memorial Day, in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Chief, have you say a few words?
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the council and the mayor for this proclamation. It's extremely important that we never forget those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Obviously, 3 police officers from the city of Manitowoc have made the ultimate sacrifice. And it's also important to remember the current officers that put their life on the line for all of us every single day. So thank you very much for this proclamation and all your support.
All right, thank you, Chief, and we had a wonderful celebration today at the courthouse with all the agencies in Manitowoc County representing all of our police officers throughout the county. So with that, we are going to move to the next presentation, which is the State of the City Address. I will say that this has been one of the most exciting ones that I've put together just because there is so much happening in the city of Manitowoc. You may see snippets and tidbits on Facebook or on WOMT, here on WOMT, but when you actually put it all together as to what's happened in the last, I say 16 months in this slide, it's truly incredible, especially coming off of COVID and the pandemic, seeing what that impact that had for other communities and what it didn't necessarily have for ours. In fact, the new businesses that emerged over the last 16 months, it's truly been an incredible time for the city of Manitowoc. And I'm proud to talk about some of the accomplishments that we've had over the last year and what we have to look forward to. First and foremost, our industrial park is full. 30, 40 years ago, when Tony Dufek was mayor and thought of the idea of buying hundreds of acres of land on the west side of the city, people thought he was crazy because why would the city buy that much land? There's never going to be anything there. We have Manitowoc Company and Mural. Thank goodness he and the council at that time made that decision, because today our industrial park is full, booming with many businesses. We're having new businesses come to the area. Businesses are actually seeking out Manitowoc for our workforce, for our quality of life, for our cost of living. It's incredible. Ammo is one of those businesses that moved from Arizona to Manitowoc, originally at Jagaman Stamping. With their workforce, they fell in love with the community, with the hardworking people. They have 200 plus new jobs in a 160,000 square foot facility on 30 plus acres in the industrial park and are looking to continue to grow. 200 is actually, 150 is what they told us originally. They're over 200 now of what they originally thought for employee base. A great new company to the industrial park and to the city of Manitowoc. Redline Plastics, what started as a local company and merged off into Redline Plastics, their story is just as successful. 2018, they built their first facility in the industrial park, 160,000 square feet. 3 years later, just 3 short years later, they built another facility, attached it, 104,000 square foot facility. They also have a land option with the city of Manitowoc adjacent to their property to do another addition. Another wonderful new business that grew out of a local business, Dowco, in the city of Manitowoc. Dram, which is a local company, been in the community for a very long time, but just outside the city limits, officially finally made their home in the industrial park in the city of Manitowoc, east of Jagaman. They have an 85,000 square foot manufacturing facility plus 15,000 square foot headquarters. They added a solar garden, if you've driven past there, to be off the grid. And they're also wanting to make the area and their building beautiful to those on the interstate. Part of the reason they wanted that was so when people drive on the interstate, they see, wow, this company really put a lot of time and effort into their building, but also the stormwater pond. We just maintain them to the easiest standards. They're going to take it to a standard that makes it look very appealing, especially for those driving on the interstate, especially those visitors who come to our area and see that our companies take care of themselves. Manitowoc Tool and Manufacturing, again, another local business that's been here for a long time, grew out of their space on Clipper Drive in the old industrial park. They're completely full out there. They just purchased land from the city. They just built a 40,000 square foot facility in the industrial park, and they have a lot of land to grow, which is their intention, which is why they wanted to be out in the new industrial park, is to continue to grow. Bank First built an operations center. One of the neat things that we're really starting to see in the city of Manitowoc is a diversification of our businesses. We're manufacturing, that's our bread and butter. We build cool, big things, and we always have, and we're really good at it. But we're starting to diversify our businesses with healthcare, with banking. You'll see that as the slides go through. That wasn't necessarily the case many years ago. Bank First, again, a local bank that has grown substantially and still remains committed to being headquartered in the city of Manitowoc. Colorcraft out in the industrial park added 45,000 square feet. They're at 130,000 square feet now. K-Sun, another local, wonderful, homegrown business, just added just under 55,000 square feet, plus 10,000 of office space for 130,000 total space now, and they're adding 75 positions. And just so you know, most of these businesses, with the exception, I believe, of Bank First and That's it. The city has been a critical partner in playing a role in, whether it be TIF assistance, working with them to help get state and federal aid for their workforce or for growing. But the council has been a staunch supporter of economic development, has approved every single one of the development agreements that have come forward. And I can assure you, our local business leaders know that the city of Manitowoc is a great place to do business. We ran out of land, so we're looking for future, and we've been looking for future industrial park growth. We do own 90 acres off of Hecker and Vebon. We purchased that from the county in 2019, and it is ready to develop. There's a lot of utilities already out there. There's a TIF district near it that we can, if someone comes knocking, we will have space for them. We've already had interest, actually. And there will be some stuff actually happening on that site. We have an upgraded Quick Trip. You gotta always, when you're in Wisconsin, mention when Quick Trips get updated or new. So we have a new updated Quick Trip on Menasha. There's a J-Mart convenience gas at the old Volvo Auto Body in Menasha Rapids up there on the west side of the city. Broadwind Towers. They haven't built actually towers for quite some time. Because federal aid and all that ended and dried up. With the new infrastructure bill and the COVID bill, there was a lot of money in there for wind and for renewable energy sources. So these are a direct result of the federal government passing some legislation to put money back into local communities. Broadwind being a major recipient of that to the tune of $175 million in new orders. You'll finally start seeing wind towers being produced in the city of Manitowoc again. FedEx is moving into the city of Manitowoc. This is a new one, a distribution facility off of Vebon and South 42nd Street. That's a 218,000 square foot facility on 39 acres, and they'll be adding traffic signals. They're actually doing it right now. Don't know when they'll be operational, but on 39th and Dewey for all those new trucks that will be coming in and out of the FedEx facility. Lakeside Foods moved into the old Manitowoc Company headquarters on I-43. Great use of that facility. Again, one of the oldest businesses in the city of Manitowoc, dating back to 1887. They've also put millions and millions of dollars into their facilities and into the city of Manitowoc and into the city of Two Rivers, which is great to see. They also purchased Shermake sausage and put in a cold storage facility on their South 30th facility over the last 2 years here. Brees in downtown continues. That's again another business that was new. Thank goodness that they moved into the old RAR malting plant. Otherwise, that would have made Miro building look like a piece of cake if that thing sat empty and had no use. So thankfully, Brees, a local Chilton company, moved in to that and has continued to expand their footprint at the old RAR malting facility. Eck Foundry is expanding and upgrading their front facade over on North 8th Street there, Highway B. Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry, this is a huge one, another one of the oldest businesses in the city of Manitowoc. They're doing their largest expansion, actually, on their site in their history on South 16th Street, if you go over there now. Robinson Metal and Alliance Laundry both moved into the Manitowoc Company facility on South 30th Street. Believe it or not, they're actually expanding their footprint on that site. You'd think those buildings would be enough, but they're actually expanding and doing a lot of interior renovations as well. Konecrane, a new business to the city. We thought once Manitowoc Company departed that we would not be building cranes ever again. And look what we're doing. We're building cranes again. 2 big blues are being built as we speak. If you remember the first big blue, one really neat thing about one of these is it's going all the way to Pearl Harbor. It'll be going Lake Michigan, St. Lawrence, Atlantic, down to the Panama Canal, and over to Hawaii, where it'll have its final destination. We're gonna have a cool city party for that one, since we have a lot of ties to World War II, and that this will be very unique. So just cool story and a cool, neat company, new company to the community. Again, they saw our workforce, they saw the workforce from Broadwind. And while Broadwind wasn't building those towers, thankfully a company like this came in. We got to keep all those employees local, all those skilled workers local, continuing to work, and now they'll be doing cranes and towers. We noticed one thing. All these are larger businesses in the city of Manitowoc. TIF, tax incremental financing, is the best tool that communities have to drive economic growth, to help economic growth, I should say. But we also noticed that a lot of smaller businesses need just as much help to either get off the ground or to sustain One thing that we wanted to bring back in-house was a revolving loan program. We used to have it in the past. It's for smaller businesses that may have that gap financing from a bank that need a loan, and we're less strict about it, but it's a revolving loan program, so the dollars come back to us as they make those payments. But again, an opportunity for small businesses that are out there to work with the city as well. And that was just implemented this last year. The old Elks Club property, now the Bay Shore Development, large piece of property that is no longer sitting vacant. Baycare, of course, built their almost 50,000 square foot facility. There are 6 8-unit apartments that are out there. They are all full as we speak. I've talked to the owners of the property. A good chunk of them are people who moved from outside of Manitowoc into our area, which is awesome to hear, great to see. A lot of folks who used to live in Manitowoc and finally moving back. Angeles Senior Living Facility, Community First Credit Union purchased land on that site. There's more apartments and condos coming soon, while still respecting the land and the beauty, natural beauty out there. It won't be house on house or apartment on apartment, but respecting everything that's out there. One good thing is that all this growth and development and new tax space is helping that TIF district that's out there, which also encompasses the Mid-City Mall, which of course is not owned by the city of Manitowoc, but we continue to work with the owner. And now that we have a lot of growth and development at the Elks Club site, the Bayshore site should spur development to the Mid-City Mall, at least some more excitement or interest. Coming this year, this is really neat. We got a state grant and also local dollars. One thing we did is with the Elks Club property, and we wanted to have public elements to it as well. The owners of the property deeded over 10 acres to the city right along the Little Manitowoc River there. We got a grant for trails, public trails going through that property, a bridge connecting to Lincoln Park Zoo, and Mariners Trail. The goal is to get folks off the Mariners Trail safely and into the zoo, especially those who are visiting. It would be a great asset to get them to see that beautiful area of the city, but also take advantage of that beautiful land of the Elks Club site. There'll be fishing stations and a kayak launch as well. All that will be starting this year. Again, all public use. Small businesses are thriving in the city of Manitowoc. There is a plethora of them. I won't go through each one individually, but I just went through ribbon cutting photos that I had over the last year, and it was a lot. Retro Eighth Coffee, Fire Fitness, Dunham Sports, Harbor Freight, and Ross Dress for Less is going into the old Shopko Mall. Thankfully, that one didn't end up like the Yonkers Mall that it was taken advantage of, with 3 different businesses, which is great to see. Intention Boutique and the old Working Man's Friend, Summit Clinical Services, Impact Beauty Bar, Granary Wellness, Basil's on 8th. Some of these downtown, some of them on the cusp of downtown, some of them nowhere near downtown. Core Treatment Services just had their ribbon cutting 2 weeks ago. Kindred moved into the old Modern by Megan. The old Mikado Theater has been reopened. The Crossing in Casa moved into the former Manitowoc Baycare Clinic on South 10th Street. Precision Floors, an out of county actually business that saw a huge potential here in the city of Manitowoc. Took over the old Badger office. Manitowoc Family Dental expansion. Pizza Hut purchased the corner lot on Calumet Avenue or in the old Shopko parking lot. Actually, the council tonight's going to be voting on something to help make sure that sale occurs. Dos Caminos, across from the airport, Zumi Sushi, just a bunch of small businesses. So I would argue that the state of our economy is strong, and I would actually argue it's probably some of the strongest it's ever been. I would argue that put up today's economy versus the economy of 100 years ago when Manitowoc Company and Miro were booming in this community. 10 years ago, after both of those businesses left our community, we all kind of had a sigh of, what are we going to become? And what is our future? Because we relied on those 2 companies for so long. I'm out of breath just going through all the new businesses that happened in the last 16 months, the diverse businesses, the small businesses, the institutional businesses that sometimes were forgotten, like Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry and Lakeside Foods because of the big Manitowoc Company and Miro's. Some businesses that have been here for over 100 years, some that have been here for just a month. It is so impressive to see. It is great to see. And I would argue that our economy is probably the strongest it's ever been. State of our housing. Housing is going to be a major issue for the council. I would argue that the last few years we focused on downtown, industrial park. We're not going to forget about those areas, parks. We're not going to forget about those areas. But one thing we really need to address and be a partner in is available housing. We went through a housing study back in 2022, and it basically said we need every single type of housing possible, from the most expensive homes to low and moderate income and income-based housing. Wide variety. This isn't anything that is unique to the city of Manitowoc, but we're hearing it from our business community that to recruit folks to move into the area, they want to, but they can't find a house. We have an issue of the need for low-income housing in the city of Manitowoc because there just isn't enough. The statistics are there. I believe the League of Women Voters did a study not that long ago that showed that we do not have enough affordable housing here in the city of Manitowoc. And it was a downward pressure as well. Folks who can afford a $750,000 house and can't find it are buying a $500,000 house. Folks who can afford a $500,000 house are buying a $350,000 house. And that downward pressure is just happening, which is why we need that wide array of housing options in the city of Manitowoc. Things are looking positive. We do have a lot of things going on in terms of housing. On Reed Avenue, Mike Howe is developing 30-plus single-family homes. That's where the old Memorial Hospital was. You probably saw a big pile of dirt over there. That'll be 30-plus market-rate homes, which is the first subdivision, basically, that we've seen in the city in a very long time. The old Santa's Best Tinsel Manufacturing, we're working with a developer, hopefully to get federal assistance and state assistance, but that would be 80 senior living apartments or potentially market rate apartments as well. Mural site, there will be some good news hopefully coming soon here, but the council approved not that long ago moving forward with the developer for 30 to 50 workforce housing townhomes. They would be built to market rate standards, but they're basically income-based housing options and workforce housing that would be on the Washington Street side of that half of the Muro site. The Franklin Street side, we're still working with a local company nearby for potential development of that side. But hopefully in the near future here, we have some good news for you about the Muro site and finally having something on it. Southfield Townhouses upgrades, if you haven't driven by there on Vebon Street, they added quite a few. There's a picture up in the corner, not the best up here, but really cleaned up that area. Former McKinley School, we're working with a developer for potential apartments, housing on that whole property. And the Mid-City Mall property, as I mentioned, most likely we're working with some developers who are interested in the site finally. At least that's good news. I haven't been able to say that for 10 years. But we're looking at mostly housing on that site as well, which makes sense for that area of the city as well. So I would argue that the state of our housing issues and needs are the most important to address for the council here in 2023. Not for a plethora of reasons, as I mentioned. To work with our businesses, to help our businesses recruit, to help our local citizens afford housing, and to build up our housing market, which again, a lot of communities are dealing with, but we should make sure that we prioritize it. And with those projects, the council is starting that. The state of our downtown, if you haven't noticed, we switched to two-way streets last August. It's a joke, thank you. But we really haven't seen many issues on the two-way streets since last August, and we continue to make adjustments as needed. There will be continued streetscape improvements. We're going to focus on adding more street trees. You probably, if you've been downtown, saw we've added already 55 new street trees that'll hopefully slow down traffic, make it more pedestrian friendly and also more beautiful. For example, we'll be adding some trees and some flowers in front of the Maritime Museum on Maritime Drive there. If you've driven there, beautiful place, but it looks like a concrete jungle. This will brighten it up, freshen it up a little bit, especially for our visitors to the Wisconsin Maritime Museum. So you'll see a focus on that continuing over the next few years here. We have facade grants that we've been working on. One thing that I really think is neat is the city kind of took the first step in saying we need to do something about downtown. We need to revitalize downtown. We had a lot of local businesses downtown that were very successful, but we needed the city to get involved and play a role in revitalizing downtown. One of the cool things we came up with was a facade grant program, and you can see by the numbers, it's not just throwing tax dollars at making things look pretty or nice. There is a huge private investment happening downtown. We have had $335,000 of facade grants over 9 projects, and a total private investment of $6.2 million. That $335,000 will be coming back by that private investment, which is the intent and purpose, which is really cool to see. There's more to come. We're working with the Maritime Museum. They own the old Dave Heather Chevrolet, I believe, on Franklin Street. They're looking at revitalizing that building, working with them on facade grant as well. We started a new program, residential investment program for downtown, to hopefully fix up and renovate some of these second, third floor spaces above businesses to get people to live in them. There's some criteria about it, but basically one of the major sticking points of a developer going in there is fire codes, this, that, or the other. These dollars would help address some of those issues to hopefully get the private investment, to get more living available downtown, but to also utilize those spaces. So that's a new program that the council implemented just this last year as well. We have some harbor upgrades. We put $100,000 in last year's budget. We have boat docking along City Hall here, so next time you come to a council meeting, bring your boat. You can dock it right out here and have some fun. Union Square is also, this is a neat story because this building, the old Rudy Rotter Museum on 7th Street, 7th and York and Buffalo over there, was on our blight list. It was bound to be raised by the city of Manitowoc in short time. A couple of folks stepped forward, and now that building is completely occupied with Waves Yoga, Ignite Dispensary, the venue, Manitowoc Coffee, and 8 new condos, which are on the upper floors. Just a cool story because chances are if that didn't happen today, right now, that building would be raised. The River Point District, this year you're going to see vast additions and improvements in the River Point District with continuing road work and infrastructure, but you're going to see a lot of public aspects. One of the things the council and myself really wanted to focus on was making sure that it wasn't just all private development on this property, that there was public use as well. You're going to see river amenities, kayak launch, boat docking, bike path, street utility extensions. There's going to be a public fire pit along the river. Just a lot of public amenities and trail along the Manitowoc River there for every citizen to take advantage of. You'll see that, and we're going to be fixing the dock wall as well, where the car ferry used to dock, actually. The River North Apartments are now open. They have 87 units. We just celebrated their ribbon cutting last week. You'll see more paving and landscaping on River Point Drive in York. That's from this year as well. The council just approved a term sheet for 8-unit condos and commercial restaurant along the river. So that development, hopefully, if everything works on the developer's end, council has agreed on their end of what we can provide in assistance, but that should be starting in the very near future as well. And more to come. Ever since the River North Apartments started popping up, we've seen a lot of interest in this site. There's a lot of beautiful sites left too. So I would argue our downtown is strong, and the one thing that I think is important is, again, the city was that initial kind of, we need to do something different. We need to pump some money into downtown in certain areas and in certain ways. But we're starting to see the private sector now take the lead and start to invest in downtown, which is the intent, which is what we want to see. We want to see that public support, at least in dollars, start to diminish, that private continue tenfold, and it is starting to do that. State of tourism. So this past year, the past 2 years, we started, we brought tourism in-house to form what we call now Visit Manitowoc. There is a new website. One of the things that we really wanted to do was focus on online. A lot of folks nowadays, their visitor center is their cell phone or their computer. We're all looking up where we can travel before we travel. So our goal was to reach out and get to the visitor as best as we can, and in different venues and different avenues. TikTok and Facebook and all this, utilizing the beauty and what we have here and selling it online was one of the big things we really wanted to do. We also wanted to make sure that we worked with our local attractions and businesses, that they have access to upload their own information to our site so we can have their information up to date and readily available for anybody on the outside to see. You can follow at Visit Manitowoc. This year, we did a joint visitor guide with Two Rivers. I'll talk about that in a second. But that was a huge success with Two Rivers. We have our new visitor center officially at 824 South 8th Street, right down the street here underneath the beautiful Manitowoc postcard. The SS Badger is entering her 70th season. She's 70 years old this year. We're going to have an extra special celebration there this Thursday, actually, at noon. That'll be the first sailing day, so unofficial start to summer happens this Thursday. Come on down. Everyone's welcome to attend. We'll have a larger celebration with the owners and some dignitaries. One thing we did is we put in new restrooms at the facility. Of course, that's the first place a lot of folks see. Everyone judges a place by their bathroom, so we have nice new ones, upgraded the entire facility, used room tax dollars to upgrade all that. So hopefully the visitors have a wonderful first impression of the city of Manitowoc. I just added this, but there's a plethora of other things that the tourism department's working on. Wisconsin Sand Sculpting Festival is something new to the area, July 14th through 16th. Check that out down at Red Arrow Beach. There's going to be folks from outside the area, I believe a dozen different sand crafters, sculptors who will be here for that weekend. The council just last month did support selling the old visitor center out on Dewey and Calumet there. The council did vote and has said this from the beginning that all those proceeds would go back to support tourism efforts, which is good. The city of Manitowoc owned that building, so technically the council could use that money for anything. But one thing we wanted to make sure was that we continue to put money into tourism and our tourism efforts. There's a new hotel that will be coming to the city of Manitowoc, planned for potentially the end of this year, 2024. It is a Marriott brand. I forget the name of it always. Hampton? I shouldn't say it if I don't know it. It's a Marriott brand, which is cool because we don't have a Marriott brand here in the city, but that'll be next to the Lakeside Foods headquarters. And the Baymont downtown went through major renovations just this past year, a lot of needed upgrades, and they are actually switching their name back to the Inn on Maritime Bay, the Circle of Life, right there. This has come up since it's a timely issue as well, but to talk about just where the city is at with the pending lawsuit against the city, because there's a lot of questions out there as to what we're doing and what we'll be doing moving forward, and I wanted to address it head on, so all of us have an understanding of where we are at least. Obviously, we cannot disclose a lot of information since it's an active lawsuit, but I did want to make sure the citizens knew where the city stood and what we'll be doing moving forward, at least through 2023 here. Visit Manitowoc, of course, our tourism department will continue to be the official tourism driver for the city of Manitowoc. One thing that I saw over the weekend, or heard over the weekend, was that property taxes would be funding the new tourism department. That is not true. There will not be any property taxes that will be funding the tourism department moving forward based off of what council will be considering tonight in a resolution. The way that it will work is that 30% of room tax collections legally per state law will be sent to the general fund of the city. That's 30% of 100 of the total room tax collections every single year will be sent to the general fund of the city. That'll fund the salaries and benefits and potentially more for the tourism department, which the city can use that 30% for whatever purpose they want. Again, they could put it into roads or sewers if they wanted to. But the council has made the decision that will continue, because was our goal ever from the beginning that 100% of room tax dollars go toward tourism. With some changes, we'll still have that going toward tourism efforts, but that is the 30%. 70% of that will, at this point, be held and not used for any purpose pending final litigation. That is just based off of the judge's order. So we will not be utilizing that 70% at this time until final litigation occurs. The city is not eliminating the 8% room tax on overnight stays during this period either. That will stay the same, so those revenues will still continue to be flowing into the city, and that 70-30 split. During this also period of time, since I mentioned we're not using property tax dollars, we will be utilizing, because we have several things that we've already approved and things that we need to do. We're entering tourism season here in the city of Manitowoc. We can't just stop. So we will be using past year's fund balances and sale of the former VIC to fund marketing, promotion, and special events already approved in 2023, and any expenses above the 30%. Again, not using the 70% at this time. And I just want to point out too, as I mentioned before, Two Rivers created their own tourism entity and brand, Explore TR. I would argue that the partnership between Two Rivers Tourism Department and our tourism department has never been stronger. We have a great working relationship. I personally love what Two Rivers is doing and how they're branding themselves and how they want to move forward. I think that partnership can continue, because I've heard a lot of folks say that ever since this split happened that there's some bad blood, and that's just not true. We have great working relationship with the city of Two Rivers. So I would say the state of our tourism is strong, and we will continue to grow our tourism economy and online presence. State of our parks. We have several park upgrades for 2023. Riverview Park, Elverson Park, Pulaski Park, Union Park, Riverview Drive Park, Westfield Park. All of those will be receiving new playground equipment, as you see here. One thing that is neat that the council approved in last year's budget was dedicating $25,000 every single year for smaller neighborhood parks. Sometimes those get forgotten, and they make neighborhoods in a lot of ways. So every single year we'll have at least one, because playground equipment is around $25,000 right now for something like that. At least one neighborhood park or smaller park redone. Fortunately, we were able to do a lot of them, so you'll see a lot of parks actually get some upgrades in 2023 here. We have new pickleball courts at Ream Park on Fleetwood Drive. Never thought we would be building pickleball courts in the city when I started here, but it's become a new fad and phase, so we will have new dedicated pickleball courts at Ream Park. That entire park is also getting a major upgrade with updated restrooms, parking lot fencing, and playground equipment. You probably have seen them out there doing work already. Lincoln Park roadway is getting repaved from the zoo entrance to Cabin 2. That road is starting to get in rough shape, so that'll be also happening soon here. Camp Fitz, a beautiful park on the west side of town, 90-plus acres of land. We're actually going to be having a ribbon cutting for it next Friday at 4 o'clock. Again, the public is welcome to attend. We have trails, bridges, parking lot, and restroom. You can kind of see on that map there the trails that are dedicated, where the parking lot is right off South Parkview Road on the bottom left of the screen there. Where the restrooms are, where dedicated parking for that beautiful area of the city. If you want to walk trails and feel like you're in the middle of nowhere and still be a minute away from the city, go to Camp Fitz. It's a beautiful park that we've been fortunately upgrading over the last few years. So Camp Fitz and Vetter Trailhead. The ribbon cutting is next week, so stop on down and check it out. Phase 3 of 4 for the Mariners Trail upgrades. So you probably saw work on that as well. Mariners Trail is getting toward the end of its life. We're also widening the trail in certain areas, which is much needed. So this year we're doing the Manitowoc River Bridge to Reed Avenue. Again, that was partial room tax funds and general fund dollars to make that possible. So phase 3 of 4, so hopefully next year we can finish out the city of Manitowoc portion of the Mariners Trail for many, many, many years to come. And then we'll be doing some repaving of roadways in Evergreen Cemetery. I never thought I would have to say that because I didn't think it was that exciting, but everyone is asking. So we're doing some roads in Evergreen Cemetery for those who want to know. Parks, this is record investment in parks that we're going to be seeing over the next few years. I want to thank the council specifically because one thing that we hear all the time when we're out on business visits, when we're talking to business leaders, is it's not just about the job. It's about the community. It's about how clean it is, how many parks are available, the education system. That's what their employees are seeking. And the fact that we can put money into our 36 parks and our park system, that the council supports that and understands that that is a priority. Sometimes roads and lowering taxes are the key things that we always think of and want to achieve. But it's these outliers and these important things like parks that make a strong community. And our businesses are thankful for it. So we'll talk about roads since we gotta. We have $3.36 million in road repairs for 2023. The largest road project will be Reed Avenue from 2nd to 8th Street. That's a complete concrete project. That'll be starting after Memorial Day here, going through probably October. East Alpert Drive from Johnson Drive, concrete out on that section. Division is happening as we speak, actually, 9th to 14th. There are 3 alleys, as you can see there, that'll be done this year. And real quickly, I just wanted to explain the wheel tax because every time I'm on Be My Guest, somebody calls and says, where is that money for the wheel tax being spent? It is being spent on roads, but the thing is you're not gonna see this huge influx in road work just because of the wheel tax. We get about $400,000 in revenue off the $20 wheel tax that you all pay if you live in the city limits. Just to give you an example, where is concrete on, I don't know, I can't see it on this list. Concrete, Reed Avenue, $1.7 million just for that stretch of road from 2nd to 8th Street. So $400,000 is nice, but it isn't gonna get a heck of a lot of roads done, especially since we eliminated special assessments, which on average was about $400,000 in revenue. So we basically broke even on making that switch from special assessments to wheel tax. But I'm sure Council President Sitkowitz on Be My Guest tomorrow will probably get the question, why are you not doing anything with the wheel tax money? So here's some future roads. So there are actually a lot of large projects coming up in the next few years here, which is really exciting to see. South 30th Street between Vebon and Dewey, this is actually the first project from the federal infrastructure bill that will be funded. This is in front of Alliance and Robinson. That is looking at probably next year, a 2024 start, maybe 2025. But that'll be the first project where we actually receive funds from the federal infrastructure law. We have about 25, 30 projects that we applied for. So hopefully we get more than just one, but that one will be funded and hopefully happen next year. Rapids Road between Waldo and Menasha, that'll be a large project. That's planned for next year. Vebon between South 10th and the railroad tracks. It's a county project. That'll be happening in 2024. Franklin Street is most likely the city's large road project in 2024, like Reed Avenue is this year. Most likely Franklin Street from 21st to 26th is going to be a large one. Memorial Drive is also looking to get resurfaced between the city of Manitowoc and Two Rivers in the summer of 2025. And the ever asked question, when is Washington Street getting redone? The state finally committed. We actually started putting dollars into it this year, city and state, and it is planned for 2029 and 2030, most likely. So the good news is that a couple years ago, when we asked when it's going to be done, the answer was 2039. So I know it's still a ways out, but at least it's not 2039. So I would argue the state of our roads are always a struggle. We urge the state legislature and governor to work together on shared revenue and more dollars to help with road maintenance. As it stands right now with the Republicans in the Assembly, the city of Manitowoc would see about a 10% increase in shared revenue. That's about $530,000 of new monies that would come to the city of Manitowoc. The governor also has a proposal out there which would put a couple more dollars in as well. But overall, I'm thankful that there's a consensus from the state legislature and our state elected officials that communities, municipalities throughout the state are suffering and need a little help. So hopefully we see that influx and we can hopefully get more money for roads as well. Just some neat other news. The city of Manitowoc was named as a World War II American Heritage City just this past year. There's only one designation per state throughout the country. It's because of our efforts with Manitowoc Shipbuilding in World War II and the 28 submarines that we built and much more with what Miro did and others. But we became an official World War II American Heritage City. You'll see those signs at the entrance, most major entrances of the city popping up. Lights in Lincoln Park has been very successful, brought in $50,000 in 2022. All those dollars go back to the Manitowoc Zoo, which is awesome, helps us out there. You'll see a large exhibit at the zoo underway now, a $300,000 project with a new pen and everything. $100,000 from the city, $100,000 from the West Foundation, and $100,000 from the Zoo Society to make that possible. So again, a great partnership to put money and invest in our zoo. We just celebrated being a Tree City, USA for 40 consecutive years. It's kind of neat. One rule of being a Tree City is you have to put $2 in for every citizen, at least $2 for every citizen. So we invest upwards of $70,000 into our tree maintenance program and even a lot more. Council just actually added $50,000 more this past year to deal with emerald ash borer and to hopefully take down and get rid of that problem, but then also replant and make our city beautiful with trees, since we're a Tree City. We have huge improvements, as I just mentioned, at the zoo over the next few years. You'll see that. West of the Lake Gardens was added to the National Register of Historic Places just recently. Manitowoc Public Utilities is moving to renewable energy. They're going to actually start burning industrial paper waste from the valley. They're able to pelletize it, use the assets that we have. We have combustion things that we need to burn, and coal is no longer really an option. So thanks to MPU being creative and the MPU Commission, we will be starting to burn industrial paper waste, which is cleaner and available, and we'll be able to continue generating power in the city of Manitowoc to keep our rates very low as they are. They're also starting a solar garden. It actually started as we speak at the gravel pit off of Hecker Road there on the southwest side of the city. This is not subsidized by Manitowoc Public Utilities. It is folks, businesses especially, and any resident who wants to buy in to earn these credits can buy in. So it's a community solar farm that you as a resident can buy in. We're seeing a large increase of businesses, especially larger businesses that do international trade in the city of Manitowoc, that their international partners require that they have a certain percentage of their business sustainable and renewable. So this actually will help, hopefully, a lot of our local businesses that do a lot of international trade to continue supporting them. The RAR West elevator is complete. Third floor will be coming soon, very soon. Maybe not soon enough, but it'll be coming for more exhibit space at the RAR West Art Museum. Again, thanks to the council for committing to continue owning and maintaining the RAR West Art Museum, a wonderful asset to the city. They're having that ribbon cutting this Friday at 1 p.m. The National Marine Sanctuary is moving forward. Of course, we are officially designated now along the coast here. The next process is we have a committee that has formed between Two Rivers, Manitowoc, Sheboygan, and Port Washington to talk about how now we can promote and sell it, how we can get folks here because of the National Marine Sanctuary. So we're going through that process through over this next year. And hopefully, in the next year, 2, 3, we're actually going to start seeing huge benefits from having a national park right along our shore. And then, speaking of the Maritime Museum, they're doing a dry docking project for the USS Cobia. That'll be happening, I believe, in 2025. They need to raise over $1 million to make that happen, and the city has committed, also, as we have for the Capital Civic Center and others, $100,000 from room tax dollars to continue to make sure that the Cobia stays in the city of Manitowoc for a very long time to come. So I would argue that the state of our city is very strong, and we have a very exciting 2023 ahead here. That's it. Thank you all for sitting through that. All right. Thanks for, keeping the clapping to, the end. We're not like the United States, State of the Union, clapping and booing every time in between. Just kidding. Another joke. Falling flat. People are sick of hearing me. All right, we don't have any public hearings this evening, so we'll move to public input. Anything germane to the business of the city of Manitowoc. Anyone can speak. Just please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Go. Yep, sure, go. Sorry, I was looking in this direction, so I didn't see if your hand went up, but just state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Colin Burnell. My address is 4503 Broadway Street, Manitowoc, Wisconsin. I'm here in opposition to the creating of a tourism department, which is item 2300446 on your agenda this evening. I'd like to know why this didn't come to committee. It's my understanding that it should go to committee and then it should go to this body. Perhaps you should table it to actually discuss this. This is not necessary, and the room tax dollars should not be going towards this, not the general funds, or the general funds should not be going towards this. Isn't this the same department that had spent $80,000 on Christmas decorations? I would also like to add my opposition to the council choosing to not adhere to Wisconsin State Statute 66.0615 parent C, Section 4. And that states, that this commission shall meet regularly, and from its members it shall elect a chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. Now, this amendment to Section 3150, is the amendment that states, and this is the one that Alders Cummings, Bolt, Bry, Sikowitz, Sikula, Schley, and Brunner all voted against making this to adhere to state statutes. The support or the amendment would be was for that the mayor shall serve as a permanent chair. Now, it said elect in the state statutes, not in the one you voted on. I would encourage these alders to vote against this $725,000 proposition that the mayor wants you to vote for. If the mayor wants to continue his tyrannical approach to governance, like when he created the Equity Committee anyway, even though you all voted against it, that is his reelection problem. Don't let it be yours. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. John, I saw you next.
Thank you. Do you mind if I distribute something with the alders?
Why don't you give it to the clerk so we just can start there and then we'll have it delivered down.
There should be 12 of them, so the mayor and the attorney can also get.
Sounds good.
Thank you. My name is John Bruner, and I am a resident of 1000 River Point Drive in Manitowoc. You saw the picture of my house on the screen just a little while ago, actually. In spite of the fact that I am currently the co-chair for the MAVCB, I am not here on behalf of either the staff or of the MAVCB or its board of directors. I'm here on my own. Having served with many of you in the past, I consider a lot of you, all of you, my friends, and it's my hope that when this whole MAVCB situation is beyond us, that we can again be friends and get along well. But let's face it, mistakes have been made. Not as much by this council, but certainly by the Room Tax Commission. You may say, well, John, that's just your opinion. A year and a half ago, it was my opinion. A year ago, it was just my opinion. 6 months ago, it was just my opinion. But as of May 9th, it's no longer just my opinion. The judge ruled. Room tax dollars are not to go to the city of Manitowoc. He ruled that. What I've handed out to you is a copy of the judge's ruling, and I'm not sure all of you have seen this. So we find ourselves here. The worst thing this body can do tonight is to double down on a mistake by strapping its citizens with a nearly $750,000 bill to cover up mistakes that the city has made. Frankly, it's unconscionable and adds insult to injury. I can only assume that in the city's desperate desire to retain the tourism department that it has recently created, it's willing to shift this funding to the taxpayers of the city of Manitowoc, in spite of the fact that state law provides a funding tool for qualified destination marketing organizations. This is precisely what the room tax was meant to be, a funding tool to help communities market their tourism assets without a cost to local taxpayers. In regards to the lawsuit, my question is, if the city feels that by doing this, they can save face. Well, I will say, Alderman Sakala, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to pop into a meeting a month ago or so. I expressed my desire to work with the city and to put an end to this uncomfortable situation that we all find ourselves in. I explained that I had some thoughts that would allow the city to save face and give us all the opportunity to meet our goals. My thoughts on how the city could move us all forward would cost the taxpayers of the city of Manitowoc absolutely nothing. Mayor Nichols and I will be involved in discussions later this week and I sincerely hope that we can put a plan together. In fact, Wednesday, I think we're on the phone or Zoom or whatever, and we're meeting with the attorneys with the goal of figuring out a way to put this all together and make everybody happy. Back to the agenda item. I promise you the Manitowoc Area Visitor and Convention Bureau isn't going away. I feel that that's the plan. If the city can get the taxpayers to fund the tourism department today, it will eventually eliminate the room tax, cutting off our source of revenue, hoping that the MAVCB then dissolves. Once the MAVCB dissolves, state law then allows the city of Manitowoc to go ahead and use 100% of those funds. And I'm here to tell you that's not going to happen. We are going to be around. So you're not just asking for $750,000 for 2023 or 24, whatever it is. You're asking for it for quite a few years down the road until other things change. I fear that members of the Room Tax Commission, members of this council, are not being adequately informed on the legal proceedings. This is why I've dispersed Judge Rohr's ruling to each of you. Please note, this is not a pending ruling. This is a ruling that is enforceable now. I heard a council member say at a recent meeting, depending on how the lawsuit goes, there is no depending. This is the final result. This is the final ruling. You may say, but wait a minute, we can appeal the ruling, but you haven't. So this ruling stands. I'm going to talk about appealing in a moment when I refer to some other things I came across. I've taken the liberty to highlight some of the key parts of the ruling. You'll see that on the ruling that I've handed out. According to our ruling, it's understanding that you were able to retain and spend 30% of the collected room tax. You guys all know that. If your day-to-day operational costs, however, of running your tourism department currently exceed the 30% of your room tax collected, it is our interpretation that you're already in violation of the judge's ruling. If, as you did at your last room tax committee meeting, approve further contracts, that again would put you over that 30%, you are further in violation of the judge's ruling. Mistakes just keep happening. The judge declared that as long as the city of Manitowoc is collecting room tax based on state law, it is required to contract with the MAVCB. My promise to you is this, and this is a good thing. Once the MAVCB has contracted again with the city of Manitowoc, the issues which put us where we are today will not exist. We will implement processes which will provide accountability to those we serve, and we will keep an open and regular dialogue between the MAVCB and the communities that we partner with. My goal is to make the MAVCB the envy of every destination marketing organization in the state of Wisconsin. Let's all work towards that goal. It's a win for everybody, really, and incidentally, it won't cost the local taxpayers anything. At this time, I do want to take an opportunity to thank a few people. Lori and Charlene from our MAVCB office and their staff and volunteers have done an awesome job. They've endured challenging times, but they never wavered. Charlene is out there in the audience. Thank you. Also, I will at the same time, I have nothing but respect for Courtney and the Visit Manitowoc team. I'm sure they're also enduring some challenges through this process. And again, they've done a wonderful job. All of these people have done a great job under very challenging circumstances. So I say again, thank you. Now, earlier today, I received a 7-point. It's a 7-point. Apparently, it's contradicting what's been said on Facebook, on social media. First point that I received is property taxes will not fund the tourism department if the resolution is approved tonight. This is inaccurate and was never considered. Doesn't make sense to me. I can't even imagine where this came from. Just a quick set of numbers. You collected $736,816.14 last year in room tax. 30% of that is $221,000. I don't see it possible that you could operate your tourism department on that money. Knowing the salaries that are paid, rents, marketing, I don't see it's possible. $25,000 a year goes to the Maritime Museum. I don't know exactly where you're going to come up with the money to do this. How? So maybe when you're discussing later on, help us all explain how you're going to fund a $720,000 department with $221,000. We all want to know that. I would like to know how to, live like that. That would be awesome. It says 30% of the room tax will be sent directly to the general fund to use for any purpose the council seems appropriate. It really should be used for tourism, and I think you guys are on the same page as that. The intention has always been to use 100% of the room tax collection for tourism purposes, so utilizing 30% to pay for the salaries and employees continues this practice. I'm okay with that. 70% of the room tax for this year will be held and not used for the purpose until litigation is finalized. This is per Judge Rohr's ruling.
Mr. Mayor, not that I'm trying to count a public comment, but wasn't it limited to 5 minutes, or have we changed that rule now?
I am almost done.
Technically according to our council rules, but I'll allow him to continue.
I have 3 more points that I received from a council person that I'm replying to. It says the judge's ruling is not final. I'm just correcting that. The judge's rule is final until such time that an appeal is filed, and that hasn't happened yet. There is not a second tourism department that was shared on Facebook, as was shared on Facebook. We are not creating a new tourism department. We are shifting responsibilities to our Visit Manitowoc Tourism Department. In a sense, it's saying there aren't 2 tourism departments. Well, actually, there are. This doesn't make sense. How could they not be duplicating efforts? They created the tourism department to do the very same thing that MAVCB is doing. Unless I'm missing something, the tourism department is entirely duplicative of the MAVCB. Number 5 was we are not eliminating room tax altogether. I'll just let that ride. 6, we are not eliminating room tax collection. We have an 8% room tax right now on overnight stays. These dollars will continue to be collected, 30% for the general fund for whatever purpose we want. 70% will be held until the lawsuit is finalized. My question to you, and I hope you discuss this later, will you put those funds, that 70%, into an escrow account to make sure it stays there and is not used for any other purpose? And then finally, we are not able to appeal Judge Rohr's decision yet. That is inaccurate. There was something called an interlocutory appeal that maybe an attorney you understand a little better than me. It's an appeal process that can be done earlier in the stage of the. Does that all mean anything to you? And if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. I get it. This is public.
Yeah, we technically do not respond to public.
I
Yeah, so
understand.
We can
I
have
just
this
wanna make
conversation
sure-
amongst
I'm not a
us.
lawyer. This word is what my lawyer said. I just thought an explanation from a lawyer might be helpful. But apparently, the city's attorneys at that point decided to not file that appeal in a timely manner, so the appeal did not get filed. So currently, the ruling that you have in front of you stands. I will ask all of you, please do not vote yes. Please vote no tonight on, and the gentleman mentioned the numbers before, and I've already lost them, but on the, there we go, 23-443 and 23-0446. Please vote no for both of those. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for giving me extra time.
Absolutely. Anyone else interested in speaking for public input? Yes. Just please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Dolores Yanda. I live at 2212 South 11th Street. I'm a lifelong citizen of this city, which I am very, very proud of. I'm very upset with the situation with the visitor center. I was a volunteer there in the 1990s, and I have been a volunteer again since 2015. I'm very confused, Mr. Mayor, because if you remember, and I know there are several people in this room that will back me up, in October of 2021, I attended a meeting at the university. It was to meet you and to meet my alderman. And the question was brought up about the visitor center, because that was just when we had been hearing that it was being closed. You held up your smartphone and you said, we do not need a building. We do not need people in a building. We do not need brochures and other papers. All you need to find out anything you want is on a smartphone. I asked you, what about people that do not have smartphones, myself included? And your response was, this is the digital age. So I'm asking you, after making those statements in front of several people, you turned around, you are in a building, you hired people, one of which you hired away from our visitor center, and you are printing and putting out a brochure. All things that you claimed we did not need here. And I hope all of you definitely vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else interested? Yes, if you just want to come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Steve Erdman, 1824 Abbey Ridge Lane. When the vote was taken accepting the end of the contract with MABCB, was the government body aware that they were breaking state statute by continuing to collect room tax and spending it? I know with the advice of outside counsel, you will not be able to get an answer for that. I would like to ask our city attorney what she recommended, but she is no longer with the city. Not sure why. I'm not sure if this is part of it. But as one alderman stated, this is bigger than Manitowoc. Not sure what that means. I'm thinking this is going to be something statewide. So we're the leader in this. But it's bigger than Manitowoc. That's what he said. What, more lawsuits coming? Is that the bigger part? More lawsuits? Another trial? We're going to go through another trial on this? Maybe we'll take it to the Supreme Court for victory. What will this cost the city? No one really knows, because it's just beginning. And that is that each one of you needs to consider what this is going to cost the city. But let us use $725,000, cross our fingers and hope for the best. If you didn't like the statute the way it's written, why didn't you use our state legislators to change it?
Thank you for your comments. Oh, your hand isn't up? I saw your hand up was. Oh, okay. Anyone else interested in speaking for public? Yes, Lee, if you just want to come and state your name and address for the record, please.
Lee Coomer, 3300 Lindbergh Drive, Manitowoc, Wisconsin. This is not to be a joke, but it's going to sound like one. My wife and I walk into Donnie's Glidden Lodge up in Sturgeon Bay last summer. Sit down at the bar waiting to get our table. The guy next to me says, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Manitowoc." He said, "Holy smokes, do they have problems?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, I don't know what's going on with your mayor and your room tax commission, but he said, I'm involved in tourism in northeastern Wisconsin, and what they're trying to pull is illegal." And so I caught an earful from this guy at the bar at Donnie's. So fast forward to this year, And I was sitting in court and listened to Judge Rohr give his decision to the lawsuit. And I've known Judge Rohr for a long time in my profession as a lawyer. And he was as adamant in his decision as I think I've ever heard him when he pronounced something. And he made it very, very clear that the actions of the city, led by the mayor, were illegal and clearly against state statute. And John Brunner has distributed the summary judgment interim order. And you just have to start asking yourself a lot of questions. Does anyone here know what the bill has been for the Room Tax Commission so far on this? I mean, I practiced law for 40 years. I know lawsuits are expensive. I'd venture to bet that if the Room Tax Commission is paying it, maybe the city's paying it, probably nobody knows other than the finance director maybe. But I'm sure it's $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 so far. Now, if the city ends up losing when the decision is final, they may be on the hook for the attorney fees for the MAVCB. So that's probably, you could double your bill. I don't know how much money has been taken by the Room Tax Commission when they were pulling 100% of the room tax money. There's been no discussion of that in Judge Rohr's summary judgment decision. But if they've been taking the money, they've got 70% of that, whatever they've taken, to pay back. And I think I heard the mayor tonight talk about using the proceeds from the sale of the visitor center building maybe to do some interim funding of the shortfall that obviously is going to be coming from the budget. That's only good for so long, and then what do? You know, I've asked myself, what was broken with the MAVCB? When I was on the city council, I was the alder assigned to that board for a couple of years. I went to all the meetings I could attend, just about every one that was scheduled. And you had business owners, restaurateurs, motel operators. They're making up this board. They have a vested interest in tourism and making their businesses successful. Who's on your room tax commission? You've got the mayor, 3 alders, and Pat Riley, who's a hotel operator, and a very fine one at that. But you've got 4 elected officials trying to explain what's right for tourism. I don't know how much disclosure has taken place, but I know when I sat in one of the chairs that the alders are sitting in, I had questions because a lot of times things were being done behind the scene, not in this room with $50,000 of high-tech equipment so that everyone can see what gets said publicly. But there were a lot of discussions in the mayor's office and local watering holes, and things got set up sometimes ahead of time. Does anyone know how much rent is being paid by the Manitowoc Visitor Bureau for their space on 8th Street? Does anyone know who the landlord is? Does anyone know what the term is? After I caught an earful from this guy at the bar at Donnie's, I started thinking, so now the city of Manitowoc is going to have a tourism department, and they're going to have an invitation for people to apply for the job. If you're in the field of tourism, do you apply for a job knowing that the city room tax commission is involved in litigation, whether or not they're going to be able to continue? I've heard, and I've tried to independently verify, that of the applications that came in, there were 2 people who were given interviews. And to be quite honest, it didn't look like from resumes that either one of them had a whole lot of experience in the field. And why would that be? Because of the uncertainty following this lawsuit, which was statewide notoriety. When I was on the MAVCB board as the Manitowoc representative, my recollection is that the director was getting paid about $55,000 a year. I've read that our tourism director for Manitowoc is getting paid between $85,000 and $90,000 a year, with apparently not a whole lot of experience. And you have to ask yourself, how does this happen? And the only solution to, the only answer to that question is that the mayor and the Room Tax Commission alders were upset that they weren't able to control 100% of that money. So they took it upon themselves to take all the money. And Judge Rohr said, state law doesn't allow that. If you were to ask me what the noble thing to do right now would be, that everyone on that room tax commission should apologize to the city of Manitowoc and should resign from the room tax commission. They walked into litigation that is probably far from over and going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. I don't know where the justice is in that. So please, you as a council have the opportunity to vote no to this plan, which has been created by the Room Tax Commission. I don't know how much input you alders who aren't on the Room Tax Commission have had. My guess is not much. So please vote no. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else interested in speaking on anything germane to the business of the city of Manitowoc? Anyone else interested in speaking? Anyone else interested in speaking? Going once, twice? Oh, yes, please. Just state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Doug Schwalbe, 123 Cleveland Avenue. So I don't envy the position that the mayor and the council or the common council is in right now, but I've always, as a lifelong resident of Manitowoc, I've always trusted that you're acting in the interest of the city and that you're acting legally. I can't comment on the legal battle going on here. I haven't followed that. I'm not a lawyer. But I've seen a lot of good come out of Visit Manitowoc already in the last year. I've seen the investment in the industrial park. I've seen the investment that when the city bought the CN Peninsula and that flourishes, millions of dollars of investment. I trust that you guys are acting in the interest of the city. And we also trust that you're acting legally. I'm just saying, vote with your conscience, vote legally. My wife and I are here to support Visit Manitowoc, and if that's what happens on the vote, please make that vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else interested in speaking? Anyone else? Going once, twice? Oh, sorry. Come on down. State your name and address for the record, please.
Jody Schwalbe, 123 Cleveland, and I'm a good wife. I come after the husband and say the things I think you forgot. So what I want to say is I have lived in Manitowoc a long time. I love this city, and we raised our kids here to love this city. And my daughter now works for Visit Manitowoc, so she has a degree in digital marketing from Whitewater and graduated with honors. She came back to Manitowoc with her husband and loves this city so much. She sweated and sweated on 4th of July and was up by 5 in the morning working down here for the 4th of July. She has volunteered at many other events. She goes down to the ice rink when there were kids on their days off of school breaking the ice, and she took some junior high kids and chased them off the ice rink because she said, my dad's down here with other volunteers so that other kids can ice skate down here, and please don't break the ice. She had to come back 2 to 3 times to get those kids off of there. She loves this city. She promotes it. Her and her husband both look forward to raising a family here, and she is well vested in this area. And I think it's so exciting to see somebody who could have moved anywhere else in the United States to come here and promote this city with all of her passion. The other thing I will say, I don't know Courtney very well. I've just met her a couple times this year. But what I do know is she was Miss Wisconsin and knows a lot of people, not only in this state, but other states, and has connection and passion for this job as well. And I have also met the third person that works there, and she does her job with passion as well. I'm not saying that people that are involved with the MAVCB don't have passion and don't do their job well either. But what I am saying is what I do know and what I've seen, I'm excited about. I've also been in marketing for over 25 years and worked at other at many local companies. So I'm excited about the marketing that's going on, and that's my 2 cents tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else interested in speaking for public input? Going once, twice? I will close public input. Thank you all for your comments. There we go. At this time, we have appointments. I have just a few reappointments. These are all reappointments of citizens to some committees, and I have some openings as well that I hope folks who are listening or at home may take interest in. So the first appointments are to the Crime Prevention Committee. Malia Prang, Charles Rasmussen, Rita Mink, Steve Kleinfeld, Bob Duane, Heather Bucco, Jacqueline Lebre, and Anissa Fenchel. To the Plan Commission, reappointment of Dan Horning. To the Harbor Commission, a reappointment of Fred Redant. To the Rye West Art Museum Board, Kathy Holla, Tricia Zimmerman, Larry Shimon, and Cassie Lapine. And to the Industrial Development Corporation, Jeff Dvoracek, Dennis Tiener, and Chris Herzog. I would look for a motion to approve those appointments.
Move to approve the mayor's appointments.
Second.
Motion second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. I do have two larger commissions that have a vacancy. The individuals are not interested in seeking another term, and that is to the Library Board and to the Police and Fire Commission. So if you are interested, you can go to you can have that. You can go to the city's website, and that is the way to apply for any boards or commissions or committees for the city of Manitowoc. Fill that out, and hopefully we can get those filled at our June meeting. Those are all the appointments. We will move to the consent agenda. Is there anything to be removed from the consent agenda? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second, just no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. We'll move, for those following along, to item I on the agenda, committee reports. We'll start with Committee of the Whole. Council President Eric Sitkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee of the Whole has one document this evening, and the clerk has it.
We have document 435, which is a report of the Special Events Committee for various events requiring council approval. Committee returns same, recommending approval.
Council pleasure on this report.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Council President Sitkowitz?
Not at this time. That completes our business.
Thank you. We'll move to the Finance Committee. Alderman Jim Bry is chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk has our documents.
We have document 367, which is a resolution to carry forward to 2023 budget, various appropriations budgeted in 2022. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
What's your pleasure on this resolution?
Move for the adoption of the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 395 is a resolution supporting redevelopment of former Shopko property. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this report, resolution.
Move for the adoption of the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 437 is a request from Pet Skull Brewing Company for a temporary extension of premise on June 24th to extend the premise off the patio into the fenced-in area on Buffalo Street and on North 11th Street, including the parking lot north of Buffalo Street and east of North 11th. Committee returns same, recommending approval.
Council, your pleasure on this report.
Move for the adoption of the committee's report, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Alderman Bry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very interesting thing before we get to the big discussion tonight, but Paul Hoffman, who does own Pet Skull Brewing, is a member of a band called Slam I Am with friends of mine from years ago, from the early 1990s into early 2000s. They broke up and essentially as life went on and stuff like that, but I've been egging them on along with a lot of other our friends to try to have a reunion show. So this is their CD, their original CD that was put out in 1995. I know the camera can't zoom in on it, but I'm really looking forward to this great event on June 24th at 8 p.m. I think there's still tickets available. Steve Franz, guitar, lead vocals. Paul Hoffman, owner of Pet Skull, playing bass and vocals. Bill Grunwald from Sheboygan, playing guitar and also singing vocals. And Randy Wall, probably one of my oldest and dearest friends from way back in the early, when we were 4 or 5 years old, is playing the drums. So like I said, June 24th at 8 p.m. in now, hopefully, the extended premises of Pet Skull Brewing for that one night. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alderman Bry. Any
Oh, I
further
guess one quick last thing, too. If anybody has this CD, there's 3 pictures of myself on the back. If you can find them, maybe I'll purchase a beverage for you if you're at the concert. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 440 is a resolution authorizing staff to apply to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Wisconsin Boating Infrastructure Grant. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution, Mr. Mayor. Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously.
Document 446 is a resolution to create a Department of Tourism within the City of Manitowoc's organizational structure. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
Council, your pleasure on this resolution.
Move to adopt the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
I second it for the purposes of getting to discussion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Discussion. Alderman Bry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your explanation, and thank you for the public comment tonight. And I'll cut right to the first part of the chase. When I found out the agenda included this last Friday, I was a little upset because as the chair of the Finance Committee, I was not informed that it was going to be brought to the Common Council meeting. Under our rules, it can be brought to the Common Council meeting without a committee meeting by approval of the chairperson of that committee. I did speak with the mayor about it today. He was sorry, but as far as moving on, we're going to move on at least to talk about it tonight as well. But I'd like to reiterate some of the things he said in his State of the City address that was very viable, or I guess appropriate to this discussion we're going to have here tonight. Number one, property taxes. Repeat, property taxes will not be used to fund the tourism department if the resolution is approved tonight, as of this moment. 30% of the room taxes that will be sent directly to the general fund to use for any purpose the council deems appropriate. We approved that as a common council unanimously at the April council meeting, and the intention has always been used at 100% of room tax collections for tourism purposes, so utilizing 30% to pay for the salaries of our employees continues that practice. And as this whole process is going on, the 70% that we are not technically allowed to spend right now is being saved. It is not being spent for anything. It is being held in the general fund. All current expenses for our tourism division are coming from the fund balance the city has accumulated over the years, sitting at just under $500,000. These are room tax dollars that were strictly to cities, and the city can use for any purpose we deem necessary. For us old hats, I guess, on the Common Council, and I think former Alderman Erdman is still out here too, when we created the room tax here for the city of Manitowoc, these are not current room tax collections. These are not property tax dollars. These were room taxes city collected under our old plan when there was a 50-50 split between industrial development and tourism here in the city of Manitowoc with our room tax. And we had an agreement with MAVCB over the past 20 years that we didn't use over that period of time. This money was essentially accumulated, and Eric or the mayor maybe can help me, before the state law was changed in 2017 or 18 when it created that 70-30 split. This was money that was approved before that or taken in before that, so no one is violating the law regarding that portion of that money. So I will open up, I guess, Mayor can open up for discussion. That's all I have to say at this time, but we have a motion to adopt the resolution at this time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further discussion? Alderman Reckelberg.
Well, I learned a lot today. As former alderman and attorney Coomer had said when he got up and spoke to the public, he says, you know, sometimes us up here, some of us know more and some of us know less on certain items, and I can be honest with you, I knew some, but not as much as I know as of today. The problem is when I've been getting calls and information from my constituents, I was not able to definitively say one way or another because of the way I saw the resolution written and the other information. So I was unable to answer them truthfully one way or another, and I said I would vote no on it. In fact, there are actually 3 resolutions or ordinances before us, all related to the same topic. And I had explained to my constituents that the way they are written and the way things are, I can't vote for them. So I will not be voting for them. But I said I personally would like to be able to get more information, which, believe it or not, you would not believe how much information I received today. I've talked on a couple of occasions with our finance director, our city attorney, and the mayor himself. We had a meeting, and I explained to him my dilemma with my constituents, and also now with this additional information, I see how important it is. Now, I can't go into detail. I've asked our city attorney that if there was detail to be given, I'm going to hand it off to him because of the complexities of this. But I don't have to do that because some of the good items have already been brought up by the mayor and our chairman of the finance committee, Alder Bry. The only thing I said I would like to do is those 3 items I would have liked to seen sent back to the standing committee and then come back to the city council next month. Now, nobody had a problem with it, but earlier Alder Bry explained to me that he had talked to the attorney, but I did not realize what attorney he was getting the information from. It was not our city attorney, it was the attorney that's actually handling the case on behalf of the city. So I asked our attorney to find out if delaying any action on these resolutions does the city any harm if we postpone it, send it back to committee, and bring it back next month for action. The problem is, we didn't get a response back from our attorney handling the situation, so I feel uncomfortable making the motion to postpone until next month. But I will have to reluctantly, because I don't have enough time to explain to my constituents why I would vote for it, although there is good reason, because everything everybody said I was able to verify today. My only concern is by sending it back to the committees and bringing it back, the things that were said would be incorporated into the resolution so that there was a piece of paper that you knew there was no taxpayers' money being used. And everything that was said tonight, like an attorney will tell you, get it in writing before you sign. And so that's what I would vote no until a resolution would come back with that. But then at least I also had a chance to explain to my committee or to my constituents, it would make sense to do that at this stage of the game. And here are all your concerns. It's in writing and it's taken care of. So I don't have to call on our attorney to get me out of trouble, at least this time. So that's my 2 cents, and I said my piece. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Reckelberg. Further discussion? Just going to see if there is anyone who wants to go. Alderman Sitkwitz, and we'll just want to make sure everyone gets a chance before we go seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Alder Reckleberg, for the explanation. I think we had a nice spirited conversation last night.
And I did apologize for that. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. But I think it's good because there were some questions because of how the resolution was written, and also some of the information that was posted on Facebook didn't necessarily align up with the reality of the resolution. So I can understand why there were some questions, but, getting it in writing, the budget can always be amended and different things like that. But I think you have the best of both worlds tonight. You have the mayor giving the city of the state presentation in live video, saying that this is the practice, that we are taking the 30% and going to invest it 100% in tourism and hold that 70% that we're not using property tax dollars. In my mind, that equals accountability. is when we publicly say, this is what we're going to do, and then we're held to that standard. And that's what I'm going to publicly pledge, is that we're not using tax dollars for tourism. Tax dollars, local property tax dollars have no place in tourism. The room tax dollars collected have a place in tourism. And I'm proud of the work that Visit Manitowoc does to increase the revenues of that room tax. As you've taken a look at our reports through Room Tax Commission, you've seen that number grow month over month to record levels. That's not by accident, it's by design. So I'm proud to bring in the department under the city. It's the same department that we went out and created a while ago, but we're able to use that 30% to do it and not utilize $1 of local property taxes. And that's something we should all be happy about. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have Alderman Schlein next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody here. And when I say everybody, I mean the council, I mean you folks out here. This is my 4th year on the council, and one of the things that has always boggled my mind is that we sit up here as a council and we sit in committees and we make decisions on the allocation of millions and millions of dollars for the city of Manitowoc, and nobody shows up for the meetings. All the time. All the time. And that I compliment you folks on, because that kind of activity where people don't show up fosters ignorance. Now, ignorance as defined is not stupidity. Ignorance is lack of information. As my father once told me when we were in an argument, he said, son, you're speaking from a position of ignorance. And he went on to define what ignorance was, just like I just did. Now, that being said, I'd like to address a couple of things that were said earlier, just in the interest of eliminating ignorance. Number one, the Christmas decorations were donated, every dime. I don't know who said it, and I don't care. That was wrong, okay? EDI committee, I voted for it because I took an oath to vote my conscience. So I did vote for the EDI committee. Someone here said that it was voted down unanimously. It was not. I voted for it. I think there were 1 or 2 other people. I don't remember exactly, but I know I did. Alder Brunner, there he is. Okay. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah. I'm not an attorney. Attorney Coomer spoke very passionately and very intelligently and brought up a lot of good points. But one thing I do know about from 40 years of being in business, in various businesses, both international businesses, national businesses, and small businesses. I retired from a small business here in Manitowoc. There's something in business that is more important than any contract, than any relationship, than anything at all. It's 2 words: good faith. Now, we can sit here and argue all the legal aspects all day long. But in my opinion, from everything that I've read, everything that I've heard, and everything that I've seen in facts, the MACVB, excuse me, I can never get that right. The old Visitor and Convention Bureau, the leadership at that time did not deal with the city in good faith. And that's why their contract was not renewed, and that's why the city went out and the city pursued another convention bureau. They put the word out, we're looking for bids. We got no bids. We weren't going to deal with people who would not deal in good faith. And I'm not blaming the people that work there, I'm blaming the leadership. And that's why this whole thing came about. Last but not least is oversight. Everything that you've seen tonight, everything you've heard tonight, there have been a lot of conflicting things. Alder Sitkowitz laid it out perfectly. We're not spending 1 dime beyond that 30%. The rest of it, per the judge's order, is being held in something, it's not exactly escrow, but it's like an escrow, okay? We aren't gonna touch that money, we can't touch that money. Is this gonna go on? Yeah, it's gonna go on. Is it gonna cost the city some money? Yeah, it's gonna cost the city some money. but we're defending our future here because we're defending ourselves against, and this cannot be argued, we're defending against a monopoly. Monopolies are not a good thing, folks, in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Schley. Alderwoman Katarabek, I believe I had you. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too would like to thank everyone who showed up tonight, provided input, and the council as well. This was, I guess as I understand now, something that was put on the agenda maybe without knowledge. And for our agenda to come out on a Friday night with something like this, and I'm sure almost all of us received correspondence over the weekend, I think it makes it really difficult for us to have meaningful conversations with our constituents, especially for something like a lawsuit, where a lawsuit is involved. So I guess with this, if it were to come up again, just asking that we would get maybe a little more time to see that this is coming up, to be prepared so that on today, like Monday, we aren't scrambling essentially to figure out information, kind of like Alder Reckelberg explained he was doing as well. Just wanting to confirm that the tax dollars are not going to be used for this, that it's that 30% that is going into the general fund. I think something that was brought up to me that was a concern is that in the resolution that that Attorney Nitsch brought up, the fiscal impact at the bottom of it says approximately $725,000 expense based on the adopted 2023 Department of Tourism budget and funding now coming from the general fund rather than the room tax commission. That piece in particular, I suppose, is something that was brought to me with concern. So maybe just on the record, if you could explain that and reiterate that that's not going to be taxpayer dollars paying for our tourism department in this decision.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, property tax, right?
Yes.
We also have our finance director here too, who can help answer that question as well if you want another opinion as well, but, yep. City Attorney.
I'll see if I can handle it. Alder Katarabek, in essence, what's going on there is there's a budget line item for $725,000, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And worst case scenario, that's the amount that was budgeted this year. If we're going to have the tourism department, we have to find a way to fund it. The way to fund it now, because we can't use the room tax dollars anymore, comes from the general fund. Last month, the council found it in their wisdom to vote unanimously to move 30% of that money over to the general fund, so that's already there, sitting there. After that, I don't have a legal mechanism to make sure that those things are bifurcated. That's where I call on our great finance director, Mr. Alfred, to explain that.
And that 30% is by state statute.
Correct, yeah, the one very specific thing in state statute is a 70-30 split, correct? That cities or municipalities can retain 30% of the funding.
And to be perfectly clear on this, just because I'm a nerdy attorney, we also made sure that there was a floor for the city, going back to what was collected back in 2010. There were some calculations. So the city can keep more than 30% if room tax dollars fall real low. But the floor would be about 190, if I recall. That was in the resolution last month, or the ordinance last month.
Yep, Sean, if you'd like to expand a little?
Yeah, certainly. I'll just give a little bit of context for all those involved and members of the public or other directors. So when a resolution or ordinance is written, there's always a fiscal impact that comes across, and it comes across the desk of the finance director, which I proudly hold right now. But, so in evaluating a resolution or a ordinance, it is truly kind of, from my state viewpoint of what is it going to be from a fiscal impact, more so from the accounting basis, where there's a lot more things behind the scene that could maybe muddy or cloudy the black and white text of the words that's on there. But with the 725,000 mentioned in the fiscal impact, if we break down the resolution, it is transferring the tourism department from the room tax commission over to the general fund, which in 2023 adopted budget, there was the 725,000 that was under the tourism cost center, under room tax. We now move it over to general fund by policies that is there. That full amount will also come over as well. So all the salaries, benefits, operating expenses is considered a budget adjustment based on, because we adopted the budget in 2023 at the November 2022 meeting. We now have to do a budget adjustment where we move it over on that, depending on what occurs tonight on there. So basically, because it's a budget adjustment, think of it as two savings accounts. We're moving from one saving account to the other. That was the intent of the $725,000 expense, because that expense was not in paper on the adopted budget in 2023. It will now be there. So the general fund, where there's these accounts that had a zero, will now have a 725 in total. And then you have to basically, on the balancing of scales, we have to balance it out. So if it's outside of there, it's a fund transfer that would basically balance out the scales. On the side that are not represented in this resolution, but on the prior resolutions, there is the 30% revenue from the room tax fund that can go to the general fund. And then also, as it was mentioned too, there is a fund balance in the room tax fund from prior years' collections of room tax, and not expending the full amount. That would also offset as well. So that's where the two funding sources are coming from. 30% of the anticipated room tax dollars, and then the room tax fund balance that is currently available on there as well. So that's kind of the intent was to, and I apologize profusely that I possibly misled everyone in this room with that fiscal impact. It was not as if the 725,000 was going to go to the general fund and we were going to take it right from the fund balance. But it's, from an accounting perspective, that is what's happening. But from a funding perspective, it's different because of the two alternate sources.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Cotter-Repick, you still have the floor.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Thank you. I have Alderman Cummings next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate first off, thank you everybody for coming and speaking. And obviously, I've been trying to have the transparency effort on social media for the last, while, 6 months or so, and I've engaged probably a bunch of you in this room already on there in conversation with that. I do wish prior to this, to reiterate what the other alders have said, is that I wish we would have had more information that was specific, like what we've received today, versus basically being blindsided with it right away on Friday. Blindsided might not be the right word per se, but in the same aspect, when you get contacted by quite a few people because it just got put on there, having that notice ahead of time with the information so you can be educated in responding would have been helpful and put us all probably in a better spot. So obviously, at a minimum, that would be one of the learning opportunities I think we could probably take from this. On that, I've been in marketing since 2011, digital marketing. I have clients throughout the entire world, and I will say that, and this is a shout out to the Visit Manitowoc staff, I have been thoroughly impressed by what they have done in everything that I've seen digital. Like, literally, if I could hire them in my business, I would. I mean, so that's just a testament to what they've been doing and where this is at this moment. So with that, obviously, I'd like to see them retained. I mean, if at the end of this, whatever happens, if it's not in the current capacity, in some capacity where they're doing exactly what they're doing, because I think, honestly, I'm going to be 40 coming up this June, And so my generation is on our smartphones and looking at, things and I have 5 kids. They're all, not all of them yet, but they all are in that same digital realm. And yes, there is a blend between digital and paper and everything else. And I think we adequately are capturing that. But the people that we have right now are very talented. And I can assure you that, like I said, it takes a lot to impress me and to come out and say that, especially in what I do. And so that's a huge shout out there. The one thing I have learned from this weekend, though, because obviously a lot of things in the public forum of Facebook, and I commented on it, there's a lot of things that get said and thrown out there and whatnot, and sometimes it's not always nice. But I do want to confirm with the attorney, specifically, that we are not doing anything illegal by passing these resolutions if they would pass.
It is my opinion that is true. I would not draft anything that was contrary to Wisconsin law.
Thank you. That is it.
Thank you. I have Alderman Bolt next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I too would like to have had a little more heads up so I could properly answer the concerns of my constituents. However, when we first started all this adventure, about a year and a half ago, I was also one of those that was voting with Alderman Brunner at the time against what we were doing. But since then, I've taken a family trip to South Carolina. And in that time, I've watched the tourisms of that area and everybody else switching to modern times, using their cell phones, having it on their vehicles where you can get on a site or an app and be able to pull that. If we want to sell ourselves, that is a great way to do it. And I would also like to add that one day I was sitting in the Beaver Dam Hotel. Next thing I know, who do I see on there? Ms. Courtney selling our city. Yes, I would like to see us come together, retain the excellence we have. I think there is a way that we can work together and make all this happen. But if we need to sit there and pass this resolution to make us modern and keep us to date, and we are not breaking any laws, I can't see what's wrong with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Bolt. I have Alderman Vanderkin next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From my understanding of this is that we can only fund this for so long. I mean, litigation can take years to go through, and how long are we gonna just kick the can down the road with this if it doesn't come out in our favor? We're just gonna sit here and waste more taxpayer money, or I guess not taxpayer money, but room tax dollars and time that we could have been negotiating a new contract with the MAPCB and getting, focused on even developing a more modern system in order to promote our city. And then, again, the notice of timing with this is very, very questionable, especially from what Alder Bryce said, is compared to our, according to our council rules, a committee chair can bring something to the council without going through the committee process, but he said he never even received that. So I'm kind of curious how that got onto that council agenda without going through even a committee chair. It seems like it was a violation of council rules, in my opinion. So in my good conscience, I cannot support these 3 agenda items tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet? Alderman Sakala? Yep.
First off, I wanted to say to Courtney, and you can relay this to Rayanne and Erica, you girls do a fantastic job over there. You really do. And I personally am very proud of the work you do, especially seeing it from the beginning. So that, and then the other thing I would say one other thing and then give an observation. With myself, I'm a conservative, okay? There's no question how I'm going to vote come fall. And with that, if there was any chance that my money or your money was going to fund tourism, I would be dead set against this. Our money is for public infrastructure, public safety, and the people that run it. That's what our money is for. With this, and I was with this from the beginning, from the absolute beginning. I'm on the Room Tax Commission, and this is all funded by room tax dollars. And I am completely fine with outside dollars coming in, to fund our tourism mechanism. That is great. The observation I wanted to make is, and I am very grateful that you all came here today. I saw conservatives applaud a man who is very far to the left. You're going to see conservatives, you're going to see liberals up here voting the same. And that's awesome. That is incredibly great, and that's what I love about local politics. And I really do wish that people in Washington would be watching us right now, because this is how government is supposed to operate. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Sakala. I have any others who haven't spoken yet? Otherwise, I will go to, Alderman Bry? I think everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
As chair, I'd like to, I guess, get a second chance. I guess Alderman Sakala, politics makes strange bedfellows, but it's a very good discussion here tonight. And I didn't get a chance during my opening remarks to thank you for coming tonight, because it's good to hear different viewpoints. And Sean, I'm certainly not putting a blame on you or nothing, but I'm glad you talked about the $750,000 the way it was written on the resolution, because the first time I read it too, it was like, okay, why are we using general purpose funds or our fund balanced normal money, or I should say property tax money, to fund this when we have our room tax money? So thank you, I appreciate that very much. But, I think enough's been said tonight. We just want to reiterate, even though the room tax money is not property tax money, it's still the city of Manitowoc's money. It's still, I guess, the 30% right now. We're talking about the 30%, not the entire 70% as of right now. But it's still the people's money as well. So we do have a chance, I guess, to use that in the appropriate way, and I think this is the most appropriate way. I appreciate Alderman Reckelberg's comments. I mean, he sounded very sincere. I shouldn't say he sounded. He was very sincere in his comments. I guess I'm only hoping that, you could amend the resolution tonight with the words you want to include. I mean, that would be a perfect way to actually support it then too, as well. So with that, I guess I'm hoping for a vote yet tonight, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Alderman Schley next.
Real quickly, in the interest of information, our mayor, Justin Nichols, is the single busiest person I know. He's got more information going in one ear and out the other than anybody I know. He is constantly running. And now he's married and has a family on top of it. Right? He made a mistake. When he found out he made a mistake, he apologized profusely to the finance the finance committee chair, and that was the end of it. Period. And my dad died 27 years ago, but he's with me everywhere I go. Hey, Dad, I'm smarter than everybody for a change, I guess, because I keep hearing people saying, well, I didn't know about this. I've known all these numbers for over 4 months. It was public information. It was information I was given on committee. It was information that was passed out at common council meetings. This is not new stuff. I'm not saying that I know everything when I come to a meeting. Yeah, I've missed a few things, but this is important. I've known about this stuff for 4 months, every one of these numbers. So nobody was in the dark. Nobody was blindsided. Nobody was nothing. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Alderman Schley. I have Alderman Reckelberg.
Like I said, I would have no problem supporting the three particular resolutions, although I would have preferred to see one resolution taking care of everything that I could point out to my constituents. It does everything that has been said tonight. It's not that I don't trust you, because, I mean, it's just that it should have been put in writing, the things that were said tonight in the resolution or ordinance. Then there wouldn't be any question. It would go up or down and probably take 2 seconds. the reason I would like to see it in one resolution and the things that were said in the resolution is simply because we've been talking about a lot of things and there's some questions, because when you look at the numbers, we are already using a slightly more than 20% of our 30% in two other accounts that were adopted in the budget. There is $125,000 going to maintenance in the Public Works Department, as I call it. I know you got a fancier title, so I apologize. And 25,000 was going to the museum. So there right away is 20%, 20.7% of the 30 that we have to distribute. And that's why I'd like to see it in a resolution, because any other problems would be caught, documented, and before us, and then we could vote knowing all the facts and the transfers and the this and the that. Going back to your question, I would simply say, look at page 159 and 160 of the budget book, or at least that was the page number that came out when I printed out the PDF. And basically what it does is the $725,000 in room tax revenue in the special revenue fund stays there. What happens is all the expenses, other than the transfer that's already in there to the two other places, all those expenses become zero. Where do they go? They go to a new department in the general fund, dollar for dollar. Now, the revenue there, based on the numbers, we would transfer $67,500 from the special revenue fund, which brings us up to that 30% figure that we're allowed to spend any way we see fit. And to balance that off would be fund balance applied from the 400 and some $1,000. And in that resolution, I would say, I think I talked to Sean, it's like 446,000 now roughly. That too would be transferred to the general fund with a designation, or as the new terminology is, it would be committed. And therefore, that money is strictly can be used for tourism only. It's just located in the general fund rather than the special revenue fund. And I would have no problem with that, because then all the numbers work out. I can get calls from my constituents say, what the hell did you vote yes for? Well, because we're not using any tax dollars now, probably not for the future that I can see, but yeah, it'll come a day that probably will be happening, because the 30%, if we donate or used all of it, we'd probably have to balance it off with some of the so-called tourism fund balance, to make it work. And when that money runs out, well, then you got a decision. Do you support it with tax dollars or do you not? I don't care if we postpone the ultimate decision until a year or 2 or 3 years down the road, but I can tell my constituents, we still have a tourism department. There's no taxpayer money being used other than the room tax money. And all the dollars are accounted for, including the $150,000 that we've already used. And it looks kosher. I noticed in here that, Attorney Coomer, we used to be a city alderman. I see a couple county board supervisors. I think the chairman of the county board. I know when they look at their resolutions, sometimes the fiscal impact is a little bit more than just one line item. It tries to explain where is it coming from, where is it going, and while they may or may not like it, at least anybody with any finance background or whatever can look at it and go, hey, I understand it, because the way it came across, I saw 3 different ways to account for this, and that's when I called Sean and I said, how do you intend upon doing that? And we discussed it, and I said, that's the most efficient way, that's the way I would do it, that's the way I would recommend if you ask me. And so I didn't have a problem with it. The thing of it is, I wanted to see that in writing on the fiscal impact on the resolution, the county board understands that, whoops, sometimes you got the finance committee, the personnel committee, and another committee having joint meetings, and they come in with one resolution that takes care of everybody's concern, you know, depending upon different standing committees. So, I mean, I like I said, I'm not going to do it because we didn't get the response from our working attorney on the case that postponing it doesn't make a difference one way or another. We didn't get an answer, so I will not make it. But if somebody else would want it to feel comfortable in making, I certainly would second it and verify that, you know, all the numbers add up. It takes care of everybody's concern, at least until hopefully we would get a ruling from the judge, a final ruling. And I said my piece, and I will keep shut for the rest of it then.
Thank you, Alderman Reckelberg. Okay, may I be allowed to speak, though? I feel.
Well, I'll withdraw my call.
Okay, just, title and name have been thrown out a couple times, I feel, just to justify.
It's not like it's a $3 million bridge across the Manitowoc River.
So, I will take, and I'll look at the citizens in the face here too, you know, take full credit for, you know, not explaining in detail this specific resolution as I did for you today. If you recall from one of our closed sessions, our attorneys said there are gonna be a lot of moving parts with this lawsuit. And things are gonna have to come and go to comply with the judge's order and to plan for the future of what's gonna happen. That's why last month, pretty quickly, I believe, very quickly, the 70%, you know, came about. And we passed that because we want to comply with the current order that's in place. This was the same process. Obviously, I didn't get you enough information prior to, and that's on me. And I will, I took my beatings on social media this week. My stepkids showed me everything that was being said about me. I know exactly it all, and I'll take the beatings for that because I'll deserve it for that. But we're not here tonight, and I'll say to the citizens, even those who won't believe me, even if I told you my face is beat red the whole night, there's nothing malicious here. Nothing at all. There's really a couple things for the reason we're voting on this tonight. Number one, we have a judge's order. It's can be debated whether it's final or not. The city's position is that it is not. But we want to comply with what this current judge is saying. And that is that 70% can't be used to fund the tourism department. That was specific language. We're not going to be doing that. You heard it directly from me, and this resolution specifies that. 30% we can use, as the judge said, for any purpose we deem necessary. We're going to continue to use it for tourism. We're at the beginning of the tourism season. If this is voted down, which is the absolute right of the council, basically we should eliminate the tourism department because we would be paying employees and they wouldn't be able to expend anything moving forward. We would have to cut off the agreement that we have with the Wisconsin Maritime Museum for continued funding for their project. We're spending room tax dollars on the Mariners Trail right now. Don't think we would want to stop that over anytime soon. We have things that we need to continue to do to provide tourism. We don't have a contract with the MAVCB. We don't have a contract to provide tourism services with anyone else right now. And it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime in the immediate future where come Thursday when the car ferry comes in, we know who's providing tourism services for the city of Manitowoc. Two Rivers knows. Explore Two Rivers is providing their tourism services. If we vote no, kind of wagging our tail, what do we do? It was never the intent to make this a department of the city of Manitowoc. The intent was to have that separation. Under what state law is, what precedent is to have that separation. I never said at the Room Tax Commission that I'm the professional on tourism. That's why we hired folks to do it. That's why we did contract with the MAVCB in the past. We didn't get the product that we sought, and that's why under that contract, which if it wasn't a valid contract, there should have been no expiration date on it, but there was, That's why it wasn't renewed. That's why Two Rivers still hasn't renewed. They're still not a partner as we were. We didn't want to do this, but again, part of the urgency for it to happen, and I don't know the answer of postponing it or not does anything. I would think that would be in the court of whether or not we're in violation of anything. But it was very specific that we could use that 30% and any other source of funding to fund any department we wanted. We could have a department of, I don't even know, department of anything, and use any dollars available to fund it. It was never our intention to use property taxes that the local citizens would pay for tourism. That was never the intent. And it's not under what we're going to be doing here moving forward in what is this interim period, basically, because we still have a lawsuit that's out there. So anything can still happen. But we have to comply with the judge's order. We have to provide tourism services. We can't just stop. We have vested over a year in Visit Manitowoc, into creating a brand, into building infrastructure. We've invested in this just to say, well, let's hold off until something else happens. Again, we don't have a contract with the MAVCB right now to provide any services to the city of Manitowoc. You know, there's nothing malicious here. I know some of you maybe think that I'm trying to take control. Last month, the council approved changing the language that the mayor is not the permanent chair of the Room Tax Commission because our new interim attorney saw that that's shouldn't be. We make mistakes sometimes. Our previous attorney said we should do this because the mayor is the permanent chair of the Plan Commission, of the Board of Public Works, and since the department reports to the mayor on a day-to-day basis, why not just make the mayor permanent? No skin off my back. I can take that off my resume that I would not be the chair of the Room Tax Commission. And that's fine. We learn sometimes by those actions, but there's nothing malicious. John and I, we're good friends. Hopefully we'll be again someday. I gave Judy a key to the city. You know, Lee, he frustrates the heck out of me, but he shows up and holds us accountable. You know, that's the way it's supposed to be. What I want to do is, you just saw the state of the city. Our business economy, our community development department is kicking butt because we made a conscious decision a few years ago to change business as normal, the way we always did things. We're kicking butt. We want to do that with tourism. None of us up here are gaining anything from bringing tourism in-house personally. We're not gaining, in fact, I'm losing longtime supporters of mine because of this. We just want to kick butt in tourism. And I think we're getting there. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that tonight we're not spending property tax dollars to fund the Department of Tourism. I do know that we've built a brand and invested in it. We've invested in our employees for the Department of Tourism. And we're going to continue to invest in tourism, whatever the end result may be. That is all I've ever wanted, and that is why I fought so hard to hold the MAVCB accountable back in the day. And when it didn't pan out, we did what we did with community development and brought it in-house. Two Rivers is doing the same thing, and I'm proud of them for it. I'm looking forward to continue working with them. So, again, I apologize that you did not get this information a lot sooner. I apologize to the citizens that that information was not there as well. But all we're trying to do is comply with the judge's order. We don't have a contract to provide any tourism services otherwise, and we have a department and employees that we are responsible for. So I encourage you to vote yes. Any further conversation? Seeing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Dave?
No. Can we see the noes, please? Okay, so the motion carries 7-3. Alderwoman Kaderabek, Vanderkin, and Reckelberg voting no.
Document 443 is an ordinance to amend section 3.010, parent 5A, and 3.010, parent 6A of the municipal code to assign committee responsibility for the Department of Tourism and committee oversight of the Department of Tourism and City Clerk.
Councilor Pleasure, oh, sorry.
Committee returns same, recommending adopting the ordinance.
Council, your pleasure on this ordinance.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Second,
Motion and a second, discussion. Alderman Reckelberg.
I am going to vote no on this one and the one under personnel for the same reason, although like I said, if it was in the resolution with what everything was said, I could support it and I could converse with my, now I'm assuming you're a man of your word and so on and so forth, and that it'll take place. And I can tell my constituents, I voted nay, which was their wishes. But yet, I want to see us, like you had mentioned, meet our obligation with our attorney to show some progress. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd be more than happy if that was added to the resolution. I mean, that holds everyone accountable. I'm not opposed to that at all. If you want specific language about funding, I'm completely fine with that. Or if you want to bring it to a finance committee meeting to have that conversation, completely fine with that too.
I'm not prepared.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Again, that is something that could happen after the fact as well of specifically in language. Today is just moving the department over. So any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Can we see the noes? Okay, we have Alderman Vanderkin and Reckelberg, so 8-2. Anything else, Alderman Bry?
No, that shall be it. We are going to meet our next meeting will be, and I'm sorry, I didn't write the date down, on June 6th. Thank you, Alderman Schley. June 6th at 5:30 PM here in the Common Council chambers. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We move then to the Personnel Committee, and Alderman Bill Schley is chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The clerk has the documents.
Document 359 is a resolution to hire seasonal employees related to elected officials, department heads, or supervisory personnel. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the resolution.
What's your pleasure on this resolution?
Move to accept the resolution.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Seeing none, all those, roll call. Yep, roll call. Apologize, we will do a roll call vote. Thank you for looking at.
Former chair.
Yeah, yeah. Roll call, yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Bry,
Aye.
Schley,
Aye.
Katarabik,
Aye.
Beeman,
Aye.
Sikala,
Aye.
Bolt,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Vanderkin,
Aye.
Reckelberg,
Aye.
Sikowitz.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Document 444 is a charter ordinance to amend section 2.070 of the municipal code regulating indefinite tenure for appointments of city officers to include the director of tourism. Committee returns same, recommending to adopt the ordinance.
What's your pleasure on this ordinance?
Move to accept the ordinance, or rather to amend the ordinance.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second by Alderman Bry. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Noes, okay. Vanderkin and Reckelberg voting no, so the motion carries 8-2. Anything else, Alderman Schley?
That is all for tonight. Our next meeting of the Personnel Committee will be on June 5th at 5:30 PM in this here room.
Thank you. We'll move to the Public Infrastructure Committee, and Alderman Steve Sikala is chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as 439 is concerned, I'm having that one pulled, and we're going to bring it back to committee when we have PI. And then 388 we already had, so the clerk has our document.
Sounds good.
Document 387 is a request from 631 North Water Street to pay a portion of cost to change driveway approach angle. Committee returns same, recommending approval not to exceed $5,000.
Council, your pleasure on this report. Is there a motion?
Move to place on file, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to place on file. There is no discussion for placing on file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Anything else, Alderman Sikala?
No, Mr. Mayor, that concludes our business.
Thank you. We'll move to the Public Safety Committee, and Alderman Mike Cummings is chair.
We do not have anything on the agenda at this time. Everything was just via consent.
Okay, thank you. And we have no plan commission items. Any other business? Oh, yeah,
One
sorry.
second. Yep, just 1 second. Our next meeting is going to be on June 12th at 5:30 in council chambers. I will not be present in person as I'm going on vacation. I'll be in South Carolina. I'll try to, from a beach, log in via Zoom. But otherwise, I'll be asking Vice Chair Katarabik to take over for me in person.
Thank you. I apologize for cutting you off. Any other business for the good of the order? If not, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.